have been asking me about the favorite lens that I have for fashion photography. And this is nothing spectacular, by which I mean it is not like a bizarre lens that people just, do not usually go for or have probably not even heard of. The lens I usually go for is the 35mm f1.4 by Canon, and this is the second edition of it. My main lens, among all the other lenses that I do have a 50mm, and I started with a 50mm when I started photography, which was about 4 or 5 years ago, when I really got serious into fashion. But it turned out when I got this 35mm, it just become my favorite immediately, right away, just because like I mentioned, the storytelling and the angle view and the distortion of the image, which the 50mm doesn't give you. The 50mm does have its benefits, because it's a really good quality lens in terms of the light, and in terms of the image quality. But let me just show you a few examples of what I mean. Hopefully this will kind of give you an idea if you're choosing a lens as your main lens, or if you're choosing to buy a new lens, changing system, whatever situation you're in. Take this as an example. So this one was published on Vogue Italia. So this was shot in a very tiny little room, and obviously with a 50mm lens, you're only gonna see probably this size, and that's pretty much it. There's not going to be this sewing machine or the background included in the shot itself, so that diminishes the storytelling of the photograph by a lot. And I really like how the 35mm was able to capture not only the subject, not only the model, but also the environment around the model as well. Just a few other examples. So this one is captured, or was captured by the 50mm lens, and you can see that the benefit, obviously, for the 50mm comparing to a 35 is that it's going to give you a very good depth of field. People call it bokeh. And it's still a very sharp lens, and it captures the color, it captures the emotion really well. If you want to shoot with a very narrow view, 50mm is the one to go. And comparing, if you're trying to frame the same shot with a 35mm, you're probably going to be able to get the same kind of depth of field, because it is a 1.4 aperture lens, so it is going to give you a very reasonable amount of depth of field. But in terms of focusing on the face, this is probably not what the 35mm is best at. But that doesn't stop me from, still kind of giving the holy grail to the 35mm, just because it just does so much that I desire. And this is another good example. This was taken in a very narrow alley or corridor, whatever you call it, and you can see the subject is in a very tight spot. And with a 50mm, you're probably going to only see in the background the frame, and that's pretty much it. And it doesn't give you like a spatial feeling. It doesn't give you the foreground, the background, and that's just not the kind of storytelling that the other lenses can give you. So recently I went out to do a shoot, and unfortunately with the California fire, the sky in LA was kind of crazy, because the sky was pretty much covered by dust that were floating around. It was a very unfortunate event, but we went to shoot that day, not because we liked the weather, but because the whole team were ready. And this is the shots that we got. And so these are all shot, or these were all shot by the 35mm, including these ones. And as you can see, the reason why I'm showing these pictures is because the low light performance of the 35mm is really good as well. Granted, it's a 1.4 aperture, so a lot of light gets into the gets into to hit your sensor on your camera. On the other hand, I typically shoot with a aperture smaller than f1.4, just because I don't always want that creamy background. So sometimes I want to bring in more detail. For example, this image, I want to be able to see the model in focus pretty much throughout her body. So that's the reason why, for the smaller aperture. But regardless, the low light performance of this lens together with the 5D Mark IV, which is the camera that I'm using, can create this kind of quality image. That gives you a lot of details that you can work with in your post processing. So that's something that really matters to me a lot. This lens caught my eye was because, and that was when I was still in England. One of my friends recommended this lens to me, saying that this lens has a very interesting view when you look through the viewfinder through this lens, and when you take photos of this lens, and the kind of distortion. Some people call it the barrel effect, and the color and all that stuff really works well to create a unique view, because a lot of people are very familiar with the 50mm, but it is with the 35mm that you are actually able to create this kind of special angle view or perspective, which really gives you the kind of not to zoom in, because as a fashion photographer, you sometimes do want to zoom in, but sometimes you want to give your subject some context. And in that sense, this lens does that really well. And as you can see, some of the sample photos I'm showing you guys really gives you a really a reasonable amount of background. And the benefit of that is obviously it gives the storytelling a lot more context, so that people understand what you're trying to convey in your photos, which is, to me, one of the most important things in fashion photography and street photography. Recommendation rather than a review. As always, if you like the video or if you want to encourage me, please give the video a thumb up, and give me a subscribe if you like, and that's always highly appreciated. Thank you very much. Talk to you next time.